Sleepless nights, restlessness, crazy dreams. I mean, this may be due to the stresses of the COVID-19 pandemic and the massive changes we have had to take on as a family. With all our routines and schedules being uprooted, this has left many in a state of tension and anxiety, resulting in sleepless nights, especially with the kids. We chat to sleep expert Dr. Dale Ray on how to manage our kids' sleeping issues over lockdown. A very good morning to you, Dr. Dale Ray. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Kuhle.
Why is sleep so important for us as adults and kids to function normally?
So it has a number of functions that are related to our mental well-being as well as our physical health, and also our ability to think nicely and be creative and sort of manage a whole lot of tasks. So I won't go too much into the science behind all of that. But one of the things that is so important for kids, of course, relates to their growth and their physical development. So you'll have noticed that some of our smaller kids do exceptionally good sleep. They're usually very deep sleepers. You can practically have a party around them once they're asleep. And that's because they need sleep to grow. So it's very important. But similarly for us, we use sleep to process a lot of emotions and to manage our emotional well-being. And it's the same is true for children. They need that time to look after how they feel things, interpret the world around them, make sense of it, and also to be in better control of their emotions.
And then, doctor, what are some of the sleeping hassles that kids face during a period such as the one that we are currently going through right now?
I think there are probably two main things. I think sometimes we might underestimate how much kids are actually absorbing from their environment. So if we as parents are a little bit stressed and a little bit distracted because we're trying to cope with keeping the household together, keeping our work going, not to mention trying to keep up with the news so that we know what's going on, and we might have whispered conversations between our partners and ourselves, and kids absorb this. They don't have to hear the words always, but they know exactly what's going on, and you can bet your bottom dollar that most of the kids are feeling as anxious as we portray ourselves. So that's something to think about, because for sure that can infiltrate into their sleep. The other thing is that without too much sort of routine happening now, we know that kids suffer severely from FOMO. I know that's a very medical term, but there isn't a kid alive that likes to be asleep while parents are still awake.
Yes.
And often if we're awake and we're sort of doing things late in the evening, and now suddenly they don't have the stress of, well, if I don't go to sleep now, it doesn't matter because I don't have to go to school tomorrow, so maybe I can stay up a bit later. So getting that balance right and sort of giving them enough time with us, but by the same token, making sure that their routine doesn't go out the window is super important.
Dr. Dale Ray, most recently we were talking about the importance of keeping a routine for adults, but why is it also important to maintain a routine when it comes to children's sleeping patterns?
I think a routine is even more important for children than it is for us adults, because they don't have the drive, if you like, and to put a routine in place themselves. Now, it's not true that we always know best, but we very often know what's best for our kids. And so if you can try and be the one that is modeling the good routine behavior with your kids, that's fantastic. So bedtime remains the same. Yes, it's a COVID time. Yes, you don't have to go to school tomorrow, but you know what? We still have story time at 7:30 and lights go out at 8 o'clock. And keeping that is really important. Waking them up at a similar time to what they would wake up for school is really important as well. Because shortly they're going to be going back to school and they're going to have to get back into a routine, and that's going to be difficult. We're going to have sleep-deprived children if they are being allowed now to sleep in until 7 or 8 in the morning, and suddenly they've got 6 o'clock wake-up times in a few weeks' time. So I think it's up to us to model that routine behavior and to be strict with them and not to be careless at the end of the day when it's so easy to let them just watch one more program or play one more game.
That's absolutely true. And then we touched briefly about children going back to school now. So why is mental and physical stimulation so important, you know, in our children getting good sleep?
When we sleep, we cement a lot of the learning that we did during the daytime. And of course, we also sleep to recover physically. So usually kids are pretty active. They're at school, they're absorbing information at a rapid rate. And they usually then have sport or activities or just generally being busy at home. And all of these things require that they sleep in order to recover from that. so that tomorrow they can remember what they learned today, and they can remember this is how I hit a ball and this is how I kick a ball, for example, without having to put too much effort into it. Of course, now it's a little tricky because they might not be having the same level of stimulation, but it's really important that we do make sure that they are physically and mentally stimulated. Firstly, it keeps them focused and it gives them more of a sense of a purpose during this time. And it can also contribute to reducing levels of worry and anxiety that don't manifest in the same way that it does in adults, but that are certainly there for them too.
And then lastly, Dr. Dale Ray, before we let you go, what tips do you have for parents to prepare their children for a good night's sleep?
So it's really not too dissimilar to what we would do for ourselves. Mm-hmm. So a routine at the end of the day is really important. So that last hour or so before bedtime, removing devices, if your kids have been on devices, and that's happening, unfortunately, to a ridiculous extent at the moment in COVID, because it's a way to keep them occupied. So we need to get them off devices more or less sometime quite soon after sunset, but preferably at least an hour before bedtime. And then to do things with them as a family, that last hour, play a game, do a puzzle with them, read, do something that provides some kind of either physical contact or emotional contact for them so that they feel nurtured, that their sleep environment is comfortable, warm, safe, dark, all of those kinds of things. And then you'll know what works best for your child in terms of having the sort of reading or lights out process, but just making sure it's as consistent as possible. And then the part that we might forget about is what we do the next morning. It's really important that they wake up relatively gently, but at the same time each day, and that they have lots of sunlight exposure in the morning. So the best is if once you're up and going, get them something to eat and then get them outside, get them moving, because that light really helps them to become alert and to be primed for their day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dale Ray, for joining us this morning, our sleep expert, for sharing your knowledge on the importance of getting sufficient sleep, not only for adults, but for children as well, to help stimulate them physically and also mentally. I hope that you have a fantastic morning further, Doctor.
Thank you, you too.
During these uncertain times, it's important that we do the best we can to remain positive and calm. CALMETTES is a natural calmative that can assist in anxiety and tension through these difficult times, helping you get the rest that you need. CALMETTES, a calmative of natural plant origin for nervous tension and anxiety, for both adults and children over 12 years of age.